so much for joining me again. And this little project is something that is actually very useful right now with the COVID situation, with kids going back to school, that kind of thing. This is a little pouch that is used for storing masks. So whether you have children that are going to school that need something that they can clip onto their backpack, or whether you just want one for in your handbag or in your vehicle, that kind of thing. So this little pouch actually has two sides, two zippered pockets. So I've just used my Cricut and cut out some heat press vinyl for this. And so this says this is the clean mask, and this side says this is the used mask. So these little pockets, they're actually completely separate. So there's one pocket here, and there's another pocket on this side, and they do not touch inside. So they're completely separate. Everything on this little pouch is all finished. There's no raw edges. Everything looks really great, and it is super, super simple. So I hope you enjoy making them. I hope you enjoy making them for yourself, for your friends, for your children, for, I don't know, to earn some money. So have fun with it, and here we go. All right, so I've got all my pieces here that I'm going to be using, and we are going to get started first of all with the zippers. So I'm going to get started by sewing my zipper tabs on. And I'm going to go with this. I'm going to put one tab with right sides inward. Right sides are going to be to my zipper tape. And I'm going to just clip this on. Two more tabs over on this side. Going to do the same thing on here. I'm using nylon zipper tape, so I'm not going to have to be too concerned about going over my zipper. I'm going to be careful. I'm not just going to go zooming by, but I don't really have much, I don't have much length here anyway, so just going to slowly go, be careful going over the zipper, then I don't have to worry about breaking my thread. And I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to backstitch on both sides. Then when I have that done, I'm going to open this up, and I'm just going to do a little top stitch across here. I'm going to pull both of these back, and I'll top stitch. I've got my zippers done. And I'm going to open this up, and I'm just going to trim off, hopefully you can see that, the seam here. I'm just going to trim that down quite close. And I'm going to do that on all 4 of these. And later on, having this little bit of bulk out of this seam is going to make a difference in how much easier it is to sew the side seams. So I'm just going to get rid of this. My pocket lining is right side up. My zipper is going to open when I pull it. It's going to seem like it's backwards. It's going to go from right to left where it opens, but that's going to be the correct orientation later on. So just trust me on that. Going to place this on here. My zipper tabs are a little bit too long. That's not a problem. I'm just going to center it. Now, if you want to, you can, if you have a hard time keeping a bunch of layers from shifting and stuff on you, then you can just do a really narrow seam allowance base stitch now to hold that in place, and then continue on. Now, this one is, obviously I want the thumbs down on this one, so I'm just going to flip this over. So I'm going to have it face the right side down. And I'm just going to clip this in place as well. And I'm going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down. When I get to where my zipper pull is, I'm going to sew down here. I'm going to stop, and I'm just going to move my zipper pull out of the way and then continue on. So I'm going to do this with both of these pieces. Again, both pieces have the zipper so that the rounded side is to the right, is facing the right, so that it opens to the left. Okay, I know it seems backwards, but trust me. Again, and this one, I'm going to make sure that my thumb is up on this side. There, so I'm going to, again, on this one, 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way across. And we will top stitch, but I'll get that sewn for you first. Okay, so I've got my seam here, and these are sticking out a little bit. That's no problem. I can just trim those off. And then I'm just going to flip this all over like this. I like to just kind of pull on my zipper. This lining that I'm using, this is my waterproof lining, and it does not, you can apply heat to it, but it doesn't hold a crease like cotton or something like that would. So there's no point in me pressing this because it's not going to do me any good. But if you're using cotton, then yeah, you want to press this down, and then you're going to top stitch. So this one, oh, I didn't trim these off. There we go. So this is what I'm left with. So now I've top stitched along there. It's on the back as well. And now my zipper opens from left to right. So it's opening the correct way. Okay, now, so both of my pieces are top stitched along this side. Now we need to add the little top part. So that's where these little guys come in. The back of this one, because they're still separate, I'm going to fold this up to the top. So I'm going to make sure that this is even with the top of my zipper. Just going to clip that just to hold it in place. That one as well. Then I'm going to take this little piece and I'm going to put right side down. So the right side is going to be against the zipper. Of course, my zipper is getting in the way here. Let's get that a little bit out of the way. Line all my edges and corners up. And once again, I'm going to sew this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. When I'm doing my seams, then I use a stitch length of 2.5. When I'm top stitching, then I use a stitch length of 3.5. But you do whatever makes you happy, whatever you like the look of. That's all that matters. So I'm going to do the same thing. So this 1/4 inch, then I'm going to fold this up and press it whatever open, and then I'm going to do my top stitching on this one. The last piece that I need to work with right now is the little square. So I'm just going to take this, and again, I'm using my lining, the waterproof lining that I sell, and it doesn't, you can apply heat to it, but it doesn't really take a crease like cotton would. So I find it's just easier for me and quicker just to use a bone folder. So I'm going to fold it in half, leave a crease. Then I'm going to fold into the center. If you're using cotton, so press a crease, then press to the center. I'm making this look much harder than it needs to be. There we go. Fold that to the center as well. Crease that. And then I'm going to fold, and I'm going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. I'm not worried about my ends because they're going to be in the seam allowance anyway. So all I need to do is top stitch this. So here's my piece. I've got my top stitching done. And now I'm going to use my swivel. And I'm just going to put that together like that. I can just clip it in place so it doesn't come apart. Just like that. Now for uniformity, so that all my bags are going to be the same, because I'm making a whole bunch of these, I'm going to take this, and on the side with the thumbs up, I want it in the top corner up here. So you'll notice that this is longer than it needs to be. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck this up. I'm going to leave this tail on here. This is going to be in the seam allowance. I'm going to tack this down just to hold this in place, or I can clip it, whatever works for you. I'm going to get, because I've got a lot of bulk here, I'm just going to move my zipper pull out of the way. So I'm going to lay this down. We're in the home stretch already, if you can believe this. And I'm going to lay this on top here. I'm going to match my tops and the bottom. Now this is fine. So I'll have my 2 exterior pieces right sides together, my pocket here and my pocket here. And I'm going to match corners and sides. There's not a lot of, like, I'm not worried about whether my 2 pockets are the same length. I mean, they are, but that isn't my biggest concern. If I'm worrying about matching things, what I'm gonna worry more about is where my zipper tabs are. Because you can see that there's some seams here. I'm gonna try the best I can to make sure that those are lined up. It's hard to get that perfect. And again, I've got a zipper pull kind of in the way. It's a little close. Now, had I not trimmed out that little bit of bulk in that zipper right here, it sticks out a little bit, and then it's hard to get my zipper foot over, or sorry, my presser foot over top. So if I get that out of the way, then I have the full width of my presser foot and nothing gets in the way. Okay, so this last step, now this isn't really rocket science either. I just know that I need a bit of space here. I'm going to turn this through the bottom here. So I just find for myself, I'm going to mark an opening. It doesn't have to be huge, but give yourself enough room that you can actually get things turned through here. I'm going to say this is approximately 3 inches wide. After the first one you do, you'll know whether you need to do it wider or not. And what I'm going to do is again, this is going to be a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. So I'm actually going to, I'll pull you in a little closer here. So when I sew around this, I'm going to start at my mark here. And I'm actually going to start at the edge. I'm going to back stitch, come up a 1/4 inch, go all the way around the whole thing, and come back to this corner, and then sew down and back stitch so that it stays. This makes it easier to sew. I'm just going to sew the edge down after, just to close that up. And just putting those stitches here as opposed to starting here and going. Having these stitches here actually makes this easier to get straight instead of having kind of a wobble at the bottom. So you can see here, I've sewn up all the way around, come back, and then sewn back to my edge. So this is what I'm left with. I've sewn all the way around. Now, these are sticking out of here. That was on purpose. I want to leave those there. I'm not going to trim those off. But what I am going to do is just trim the bulk out of my corners. All right, so there I have that. Now what I find it has worked well for me is I'm going to open up this little pocket. I'm going to reach in there. And I'm actually going to feel for that little swivel clasp, because that makes it really easy to pull through. So I've got a hold of that. Going to be a little bit gentle, but now I'm going to just get my trusty bone folder or point turner. Just going to push all of this out. I'm going to be gentle on my corners so that I don't poke all the way through. All right. So now if I want to, I can close these up. Now, the last thing I need to deal with is this open edge. So having those little stitches in that seam allowance, it seems like when you pull on your seam, this actually straightens out a lot nicer. So I'm going to do that. And now, I mean, you can press that. You can do whatever you need to do. I'm going to use my bone folder. And I'm simply, now this is going to line up really nice. It's nice and straight. Throw a clip on there, pins, whatever you want to use. And I'm just going to start at the corner here, and I'm just going to top stitch all the way down. All right, so the very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to punch a hole up at the top here. So I left this long so that I've got a chunk inside here, and that gives me something to rivet through. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to center that. And I'm going to pop a rivet in there, and I'm good to go. If you don't want a rivet, that's fine too. What I would suggest though then is just to go ahead and top stitch all the way across this top. You can do as little or as much top stitching as you want. I don't feel the need once I have a rivet in here to top stitch that, but you can. If you like the look of it, you can go right ahead. So I have my rivet set, and that is it. So now I can add it to my growing little pile of these. And the great thing about this is that the pockets, everything is completely finished. There's no raw edges of any sort. It feels really good. The pockets are completely separate. So you have the fabric in between. So your any germs or anything that could be on the used mask are safe from touching the clean mask. So I hope that you have enjoyed this little video. I've really enjoyed making it. This pouch is it's so quick and it's so clean and so easy to do that I really hope that you can make lots of them or a few of them and have fun with it. Thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to check out my website, www.doodabug.com. That's DOODABUG.com. And if you have enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do that as well. So thank you so much and have a great one.